It's not about precautions, it's about understanding the responsibilities of the board and how the board looks at cybersecurity. Today we see boards and directors being held accountable. Recently, Aon announced that cyber events now rank among the top 3 triggers for D&O derivative actions. That means that the directors and officers are being held personally responsible for cyber attacks. This is a game changer. What we've seen in the past is that the IT people go into the boardroom, the CISO presents a list of 300 vulnerabilities. The board's mystified. They don't understand cyber jargon, and nor should they. The boards have the fiduciary responsibility to protect the assets. The way to do that is to have an effective strategy. The only way to rebuke those types of D&O derivative claims is to show what kind of a program you have in place. That program consists of having cyber insurance, it consists of having the adequate cyber budget, and it consists of understanding how do you prioritize the risk you have in cyber as it relates to the impacts that you have from all the different types of cybersecurity incidents, findings, and vulnerabilities that the company is going to be exposed to. It's the job of the board to provide that level of oversight. It's not the job of the board to actually go and fix things. If that's the job of the CISO and the operational cyber team. Well, a couple of things with Uber. First and foremost, there looked like there was insider trading when the executives started selling their shares before they announced the breach. This is a big no-no. You should not do that. You will have SEC implications. The second thing is that they didn't disclose the breach promptly. So the new New York State financial services regulation is saying you have to disclose within 72 hours. The GDPR is saying you have to disclose in 72 hours. So there's really more clarity on disclosures, and I think the whole disclosure process is interesting to talk about because you really need to have a policy in place for data disclosures, or data breach disclosures, excuse me. And what we're talking about is, if you identify something that looks like a breach, what is the process for validating it? And then who's owning that process? How does it go to legal? Legal should be a part of that process. They should be involved in the disclosure itself. And then what is your remediation plan? I think some of the times when you see these organizations disclosing, Equifax is another great example of how not to disclose. They were basically like, yeah, we had a breach and we're gonna offer you credit monitoring. And it's like, not good enough. And it seems to be a very laissez-faire attitude towards the consumer. And so now you're seeing the businesses that use Equifax's services, they're dropping them like a bad day. They're like, oh, we can't trust you anymore. It's really having the right kind of tone these days versus like a few years ago, people were like, you saw stock prices going up after the Target breach, which made no sense whatsoever. Now you're seeing major dips in stock prices. So when we look at breach notification, it's really about understanding what is the procedure. It should be an organizational policy that has a procedure behind it that's very clear on what are the steps that we take when we identify one, when we remediate one, when we report it, who's involved, because there's so many stakeholders in cyber, and everybody has to understand their role, and that's part of the method to the madness, so to speak, is like, what's your role? What's my role? What's their role, right? You want to try and mitigate the impacts, and one of those is reputational impact. If you don't disclose properly, then, you're going to start to see immediately the additional types of impacts, such as financial, et cetera. So I think it's a good lesson to learn.